The debate in the Imperial Council lasted for 2 weeks. The hardliners fought against accepting the human alliance, calling it a surrender of imperial dignity. But the evidence was impossible to deny. The data crystal from the humans contained detailed records of 15 years of warfare against an enemy the Empire hadn't even known existed. More importantly, 3 more Imperial worlds had gone dark during the debate. The swarm was accelerating its advance. Finally, facing the reality of an extinction-level threat, the Council voted to accept the alliance. It was not unanimous. Many still argued for fighting alone, maintaining Imperial pride even in the face of annihilation. But Ambassador Minho's faction won by a narrow margin. The Valthern Empire would, for the first time in its 10,000-year history, recognize another civilization as an equal partner. Commander Taiyang watched the announcement broadcast across Imperial space. He was standing in the command center of a new joint military facility, constructed in neutral space between human and Imperial territory. Around him, both human and Valthern personnel worked side by side, setting up the infrastructure for their combined defense force. Captain Hyun approached, now wearing insignia that marked him as co-commander of the joint fleet. Taiyang bore the same rank. It had been Jiwan's suggestion that the fleet have 2 commanders, 1 human and 1 Valthern, making decisions together. The Imperial military had hated the idea, but Taiyang had volunteered. He understood that this was bigger than pride. This was about survival. The first joint patrols launch tomorrow, Hyun said, standing beside Taiyang. 12 mixed squadrons, half human ships, half Imperial. Are your people ready? They're nervous, Taiyang admitted. We've trained together for weeks, but it's different when it's real. Are yours ready? Hyun smiled slightly. Humans have a saying. We're always ready because we're always terrified. Fear keeps us sharp, makes us careful. Your people rely on confidence and training. We rely on paranoia and adaptation. Together maybe we'll balance each other out. Over the next month, the joint patrols began mapping the swarm's movements. What they found was worse than anyone had feared. The swarm was larger than the human projections suggested. It had consumed more civilizations, and it was learning at an accelerating rate. Every tactic used against it was analyzed and countered faster than before, but the Alliance was learning too. Human scientists worked with Imperial researchers, combining their knowledge in ways neither could have achieved alone. Nari found herself leading a research team that included both species. She worked closely with Bora, the human engineer, and together they began developing new weapons and defensive systems. The breakthrough came from an unlikely source. A young Imperial soldier named Jay had become friends with a human Marine named Suki during joint training exercises. They had been sharing stories about their cultures, comparing notes on tactics and strategies. Jay mentioned how Imperial ships used predictable formations because they relied on centralized command. Suki explained how human ships used swarm tactics with distributed decision-making. When they brought their ideas to Hyun and Taiyang, the 2 commanders immediately saw the potential. Imperial firepower combined with human flexibility, centralized strategy with decentralized execution. It was exactly what they needed to fight an enemy that adapted to everything. The first real test came at the Kashin Nebula, a strategic location on the route to Imperial core worlds. Sensors detected a massive swarm force moving through the region. It was the largest force seen yet, enough to consume an entire star system. The joint fleet was waiting for them. Taiyang stood on the bridge of the command ship watching the tactical display. Beside him, Hyun observed the same data from his station. They had planned this battle together, combining their expertise. Now they would see if humans and Valthern could truly fight as one. Swarm force entering engagement range, reported the tactical officer, counting 3,700 individual units. They're forming attack pattern Theta, same as they used against Colony Koresh. They expect us to use standard Imperial defensive formation, Taeyang said. They've already adapted to counter it. Then we won't give them what they expect, Hyun replied. All ships execute pattern G1. It was named after the diplomat who had brought them together, a gesture of respect that even Imperial crews had come to appreciate. The joint fleet spread out, breaking every rule of traditional Imperial tactics. Ships moved independently, using human-style coordination, but when they fired, they used Imperial weapons with devastating power. The swarm force moved to counter the human tactics, adapting their formation. But then the Imperial ships suddenly shifted back to traditional formation, concentrating their fire. The swarm, caught between two tactical approaches, couldn't adapt fast enough. They're trying to learn both patterns simultaneously, Nari reported from the science station. Their processing is getting overwhelmed. Keep switching tactics. Hyun and Taeyang called out orders in perfect synchronization, each anticipating what the other would do. The fleet danced through space, shifting between Imperial and human tactics so quickly that the swarm couldn't lock onto any single pattern. And whenever the swarm started to adapt, the combined fleet would shift again. The battle lasted 7 hours. When it was over, the swarm force was destroyed. Not a single unit escaped. The joint fleet had lost 43 ships, but they had saved the star system. More importantly, they had proven that the alliance could work. That humans and Valthern fighting together were stronger than either species fighting alone. News of the victory spread quickly through both territories. The Imperial populations who had been skeptical of the alliance began to change their minds. The humans had proven they were valuable partners, not inferior subjects. And the human Commonwealth, which had spent centuries hiding in fear of the Empire, began to see that the Valthern were capable of change. But the war was far from over. The swarm kept coming, wave after wave. More battles followed, some victories, some defeats. The alliance held together through all of it, growing stronger with each engagement. Human medical technology saved countless Imperial lives. Valthern manufacturing capacity provided the ships and weapons the Commonwealth needed. Cultural exchange programs began as both species learned from each other. Taeyang found himself changing too. He had started this journey as a loyal Imperial officer who believed in his civilization's superiority. Now he commanded a fleet with a human as his equal, and he trusted Hyun with his life. He had learned that strength came in many forms. The Empire's power was real, but so was humanity's resilience. Together, they were greater than the sum of their parts. One day, a year after the alliance began, Taeyang and Hyun stood together on the observation deck of the command station. They were watching a joint training exercise where young Imperial and human pilots flew together in mixed squadrons. The pilots laughed and competed and worked as teams, not caring about species differences. "My daughter sent me a message yesterday," Hyun said suddenly. "She's 12. She asked me what Valthern children are like. She wants to meet some. Make friends." "My nephew asked me the same about human children," Taeyang replied. "I think that's a good sign. The next generation won't see each other as aliens. They'll just see each other as people. That's what we're fighting for," Hyun said. "Not just to survive the swarm, but to build something better. A galaxy where species work together instead of conquering each other, where humans and Valthern and whoever else we meet can be partners." Taeyang nodded. "The Empire is changing. Slowly, but it's happening. The Council passed reforms last month. Species in the Empire can now maintain more autonomy, have representation in Imperial decisions. It's not perfect, but it's a start. You showed us a better way." "We showed each other," Hyun corrected. "You gave us the resources to survive. We gave you the flexibility to adapt. Neither of us could have done this alone." 6 months later, the tide of the war began to turn. The joint fleet had grown larger and more experienced. They had developed tactics the swarm couldn't easily counter. More importantly, they had discovered the swarm's weakness. The creatures adapted quickly to individual threats, but they struggled when faced with cooperation they couldn't understand. The bond between humans and Valthern, the trust and coordination they had built, was something the swarm couldn't process or counter. The final major battle happened at the edge of the galaxy, where the swarm had first entered. The joint fleet, now numbering over 3,000 ships, met the main swarm force. It was the largest battle in recorded history. Taeyang and Hyun commanded from the center, their orders flowing seamlessly as if they were one mind and two bodies. The battle raged for 3 days. Ships were lost on both sides. Heroes emerged from both species. Jae and Suki led a desperate attack that saved an entire wing of the fleet. Nari and Bora deployed a new weapon they had developed together, a technology that disrupted the swarm's ability to coordinate. In the end, the joint fleet prevailed. The main swarm force was destroyed, and the surviving elements fled back into deep space. The war wasn't completely over. There would still be scattered swarm remnants to hunt down, but the major threat had been eliminated. The galaxy was safe for now. The humiliation of Admiral Soman's fleet sent shockwaves through the Valthern Empire. For the first time in thousands of years, an Imperial battle group had been defeated without firing a single successful shot. The news spread quickly, and with it came fear and anger. Some in the Empire called for total war against the humans. Others urged caution. The Council was divided more deeply than ever. Commander Taeyang found himself in an unusual position. He was suddenly considered an expert on humans, despite only meeting them a few times. The Council summoned him repeatedly, demanding information and advice. But the hardliners refused to listen to anything that suggested negotiation. They wanted revenge. They wanted to prove that the Empire was still supreme. Nari had been reassigned to a research facility to study human technology. But the hardliners in the military saw her growing respect for human innovation as a betrayal. She was called a human sympathizer, and her career was threatened. Taeyang tried to protect her, but his influence was limited. Then, 3 months after the failed demonstration, the humans made contact again. But this time the message was different. It came directly from diplomat Jiwan, and it was marked as urgent. She requested a meeting with the Imperial Council itself, not through military channels but through diplomatic ones. She claimed to have information vital to the Empire's survival. The Council was suspicious. Many thought it was a trick. But a smaller faction, led by Ambassador Minho, a moderate Valthern who believed in peaceful expansion, argued that they should at least listen. After days of debate, the Council agreed. They would meet with the humans on a neutral station, with full security and no weapons allowed. Taeyang was chosen to escort the human delegation, along with Nari. They traveled to the meeting location, a station at the border of Imperial space. When they arrived, they found Jiwan waiting with Captain Hyun, and a third person Taeyang hadn't met before. She was introduced as Bora, a human scientist and engineer. The meeting room was large and formal. The Imperial Council sent Ambassador Minho to represent them, along with several military advisors and scientists. The atmosphere was tense. Everyone remembered what had happened to Admiral Somin's fleet. Jiwan stood and bowed respectfully to the council representatives. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. We know trust is lacking between our peoples, but what we have to share today is too important to let pride or fear get in the way." Ambassador Minho was an older Valthern with kind eyes. He gestured for Jiwan to continue. "We are listening, Diplomat Jiwan. What information do you have that is so vital to the Empire?" Jiwan nodded to Bora, who activated a holographic display. The image showed a star map of the galaxy, with the Empire's territory marked in blue and the human Commonwealth marked in green. But there was something else on the map. A red zone at the edge of the galaxy, slowly expanding inward. "This," Bora said, her voice serious, "is the Void Swarm. An extragalactic threat that has been consuming civilizations at the galaxy's edge for the past 50 years. We estimate they have already destroyed at least 12 species and absorbed their technology and resources. They are moving toward the core of the galaxy, toward both our territories." The Imperial representatives leaned forward, studying the map. One of the military advisors spoke up. "We have no records of this threat. Why haven't we detected it?" "Because it's at the very edge of explored space," Yun said. "And because the swarm is very good at destroying any civilization before they can send warnings." "But we detected them 15 years ago. We've been fighting a secret war against their scout elements ever since." The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Nari stood up, her voice sharp with scientific curiosity. "You've been fighting an alien invasion? Why didn't you tell anyone? Why didn't you ask for help?" Jiwan looked sad. "Because we were hiding from you, remember? If we had revealed ourselves to warn the Empire, you would have demanded we submit to your authority. We couldn't risk our independence even to fight a common enemy, so we fought alone. We've lost 3 colony outposts to swarm attacks. We've sacrificed thousands of lives holding the line, all to buy time." Bora continued her presentation, showing images captured from battles. The swarm was unlike anything the Empire had seen. They were biological machines, or maybe mechanical organisms. It was hard to tell. They consumed everything in their path, breaking down matter and energy to fuel their expansion. And they learned. Every tactic used against them was analyzed and countered in the next engagement. "They sound like an unstoppable force," Ambassador Minho said quietly. "If what you say is true, why are you telling us now?" "What changed?" "Because they're getting stronger," Hyun said bluntly. "Our projections show they'll reach Imperial space within 10 years. Maybe sooner, And we can't hold them alone anymore. We've slowed them down, but we're losing ground. The swarm adapts too quickly. They're learning from every fight. So you need our help, one of the military advisors said with a sneer. After humiliating us, defeating our fleet, now you come begging for assistance? No, Jiwan said firmly. We're offering partnership. An alliance between equals. We have data on the swarm that you don't have. We have tactics and experience fighting them, and you have numbers and resources that we lack. Together we might be able to stop them. Separately we'll both fall. Bora pulled up more data. Our AI projections are clear. The swarm will reach your border worlds in approximately 9.3 years. They'll hit your outer colonies first. Based on how they've operated before, they'll destroy everything in their path. Your standard military tactics won't work against them. They'll adapt to your weapons within hours, counter your strategies within days. They're not like any enemy the Empire has faced before. And you think your tactics will work better? The military advisor challenged. We know they will, Hyun said, because we're still alive. We've been fighting the swarm for 15 years using adaptation and flexibility. The same principles we used against your fleet. We don't try to overpower them. We change tactics constantly. Keep them guessing. Use coordination and intelligence instead of brute force. It's the only way to fight an enemy that learns from every encounter. Nari was studying the data with growing alarm. These projections are sophisticated. Your AI modeling is more advanced than I thought. If these numbers are accurate, the swarm could destroy hundreds of Imperial worlds before we even understand what we're fighting. That's correct, Bora said, and that's why we're here. We don't want the Empire to fall. If you fall, we're next. We can't stop the swarm alone, but neither can you. We need each other. Ambassador Minho was silent for a long time, thinking. Finally, he spoke. Let's say we believe you. Let's say this swarm is real and as dangerous as you claim. Why should we trust you? You've already proven you can defeat our ships. How do we know this isn't an elaborate deception to make us lower our guard? Jiwan reached into her bag and pulled out a data crystal. This contains everything we know about the swarm. Battle logs, sensor data, tactical analysis. Give it to your scientists. Let them verify it independently. We're not asking you to trust us blindly. We're asking you to look at the evidence and make a rational decision. She placed the crystal on the table. But I'll also tell you something we haven't shared yet. 3 days ago, a swarm probe attacked one of your outer colonies, a mining world called Koresh. The attack lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the planet was dead. Stripped of all life and resources, 500,000 Imperial citizens died. Your military hasn't made the news public yet because they don't understand what happened. The Imperial representatives went pale. One of them immediately started checking reports on a personal communicator. After a moment, he looked up in shock. It's true. Koresh went dark 3 days ago. We sent a ship to investigate, but it hasn't reported back yet. That ship is gone too, Hyun said quietly. The swarm doesn't leave witnesses. That's why nobody knows about them. They strike fast, they consume everything, and they move on. By the time anyone realizes what happened, it's too late to warn others. The room fell silent. The reality of the threat was sinking in. This wasn't some distant possibility. The swarm had already struck Imperial territory. The danger was real and immediate. Ambassador Minho picked up the data crystal slowly. I will take this to the full council. They will need to see the evidence. But I want to ask you something, Diplomat Jiwan. If we agree to work together, what exactly are you proposing? An alliance of equals, Jiwan said. We share intelligence and technology. We coordinate our militaries. We develop joint strategies to fight the swarm. But we remain independent nations. The Commonwealth doesn't submit to the Empire, and the Empire respects our sovereignty. We work together because it benefits both of us, not because one rules the other. The Council will never agree to that, one of the military advisors said. The Empire doesn't make alliances with equals. We accept vassals or we have nothing. Then the Empire will fall, Hyun said flatly. And when you're gone, the swarm will come for us. And we'll fall too. Your pride will kill us all. Ambassador Minho held up a hand for silence. I cannot promise what the Council will decide. But I will present your offer fairly, and I will include all the evidence. The Imperial Council had not taken the news well. Commander Taiyang stood in the council chamber on the capital world, watching as the highest authorities of the Valthern Empire argued about what to do with the humans. His report had caused chaos. Some council members wanted to welcome the humans as long-lost brothers. Others saw them as a threat that needed to be controlled, and a few saw them as a valuable resource to be claimed. In the end, the hardliners won. The Empire would demonstrate its superiority. If the humans saw the true power of the Empire, surely they would understand the foolishness of resistance. An entire battle fleet would be sent to the human sector under the command of Admiral Samin, one of the Empire's most decorated officers. They would not attack, but they would show such overwhelming force that the humans would have no choice but to submit. Taeyang had argued against this approach. He had tried to explain that humans didn't respond well to intimidation, but his words fell on deaf ears. He was just a survey ship commander. What did he know about grand strategy? Now 3 weeks later, Taeyang found himself back in the human sector aboard Admiral Soman's flagship, the Imperial Fist. The fleet that accompanied them was massive, 50 warships, each one capable of destroying a planet. It was a force that had never been defeated in battle. Admiral Soman was a tall Valthern with cold eyes and a reputation for ruthless efficiency. She stood on her bridge with absolute confidence. "Commander Taeyang, you will transmit our demands to the humans. They have 1 day to accept Imperial authority. If they refuse, we will disable their orbital defenses and occupy their worlds. We will show them the price of defiance." Taeyang wanted to protest, but he knew it would do no good. He opened a communication channel to the human Commonwealth. "This is Commander Taeyang. I need to speak with Captain Hyun or Diplomat Jiwon immediately." The response came quickly. Hyun's face appeared on the screen, and Taeyang could see he was on the bridge of a ship. "Commander, I see you brought friends. That's quite a fleet. Captain Hyun, please listen carefully. The Empire is offering you one final chance. Submit to Imperial authority, and you will be treated well. Your worlds will be protected. Your people will be given honored positions within the Empire. But if you refuse, Admiral Soman has orders to demonstrate what resistance will cost you." Hyun's expression didn't change. "And if we refuse? Then the fleet will disable your defenses and occupy your worlds. Please, Captain, you cannot win against this much firepower. Don't let pride destroy everything your people have built." For a moment, Hyun was silent. Then he spoke quietly. "Thank you for the warning, Commander. I know you're trying to help, but the answer is no. We will not submit. We will not bow. And we will not run. This is our home, and we will defend it." The channel closed. Taeyang turned to Admiral Soman. "They've refused, Admiral." Soman smiled coldly. "Good. I was hoping they would. It's time to teach these humans their place. All ships, battle formation. Target their largest orbital station. We'll disable it as a demonstration. Non-lethal weapons only. I want them alive to see what they're dealing with." The Imperial fleet moved forward in perfect formation. It was beautiful in a terrible way. 50 warships advancing like a wall of steel. Taeyang watched the human response on his sensors. The humans were evacuating their stations, moving civilians to the planets below. Smart. They knew what was coming. But then something unexpected happened. Human ships began appearing. Lots of them. They seemed to come from nowhere, dropping out of faster-than-light travel all around the Imperial fleet. Taeyang counted quickly. 200 ships. 300. More appearing every second. Where did they all come from? Admiral Soman demanded. "Our intelligence said they only had a few dozen warships." Nari was at her sensor station, working frantically. "Admiral, these aren't all warships. Many of them are civilian vessels. Cargo ships, passenger liners, mining craft. They've been modified with weapons and shields, but they're not military grade." Soman laughed. "They're throwing everything they have at us." "How desperate?" "It won't matter. One Imperial warship is worth 10 of their civilian conversions. All ships prepare to fire on my command." But Captain Hyun's voice cut through the communication channel before Soman could give the order. "Admiral Soman, this is your only warning. Leave our space now and we'll let you go unharmed. Continue your aggressive actions and we will defend ourselves." "You dare threaten us?" Soman snarled. "Fire!" "Disable their largest station." The Imperial Fist unleashed its weapons. Powerful energy beams designed to overload shields and disable systems without destroying them. The beams shot across space toward the human station, but they never reached their target. Hundreds of small objects suddenly appeared in the path of the weapons fire, absorbing the energy. When the light faded, the station was undamaged. "What was that?" Soman demanded. Nari studied her screens in amazement. They deployed thousands of small drones. Each one has a microshield. They formed a wall and absorbed our fire. Admiral, that level of coordination requires incredibly advanced AI or extremely skilled pilots working in perfect synchronization. Then we'll overwhelm their drones, Soman said. All ships concentrate fire on that station. Maximum non-lethal output. The entire Imperial fleet opened fire. The space between the fleet and the station lit up with energy. But again, the human drones intercepted everything. They moved like a living thing, flowing and adapting to block every shot. Not a single beam reached the station, and then the humans counterattacked. But it wasn't what Taiyang expected. There were no massive weapons, no powerful beams. Instead, the human ships released swarms of smaller drones, thousands of them, maybe millions. They spread out across space like a cloud, moving toward the Imperial fleet. Point defense systems, engage, Soman ordered. Destroy those drones. The Imperial ships opened fire with their defensive weapons, designed to shoot down incoming missiles and fighters. They destroyed hundreds of drones, thousands. But for every one they destroyed, 10 more appeared. The swarm kept coming. When the drones reached the Imperial ships, they didn't explode. Instead, they attached to the hulls like insects. Within seconds, every Imperial ship was covered in them. Alarms started blaring across the fleet. Admiral, we're losing power, reported the engineering officer. The drones are draining our energy systems. Shields are failing. Weapons offline. Life support holding. But everything else is going dark. All across the fleet, the same thing was happening. One by one, the mighty Imperial warships went silent, their power drained, floating helplessly in space. Even the Imperial Fist was affected. The lights on the bridge flickered and died, replaced by emergency lighting. Soman stared at her screens in disbelief. This is impossible. We're the most powerful fleet in the sector. How can civilian ships and drones defeat us? Hyun's voice came through the communication channel again. We didn't defeat you, Admiral. We just made you unable to fight. Your ships are intact. Your crews are safe. In a few hours, we'll release your systems and you can go home. But understand this. We've had 8,000 years to prepare for exactly this situation. Every system we build, every ship we design, every tactic we practice is focused on one goal. Survival. We don't need to destroy you. We just need to make it impossible for you to destroy us. Taiyang finally understood. The humans had been telling the truth. They had turned their weakness into strength. They couldn't match the Empire's raw power, so they developed tactics that didn't require power. They used numbers, coordination, and intelligence instead of brute force. We adapt, Hyun continued. That's what humans do. You brought 50 warships, so we brought 400 civilian ships modified to counter your specific tactics. You used energy weapons, so we deployed energy-absorbing drones. You tried to overwhelm us with firepower, so we overwhelmed you with numbers. Every move you made, we were ready for it, because we've been studying you for centuries. We know how the Empire fights. We know what you'll do before you do it. Admiral Soman's face was pale with shock and rage, but she was smart enough to know when she was beaten. This isn't over, she said quietly. The Empire will send a larger fleet, more ships than you can counter. Maybe, Hyun acknowledged. But it won't matter. Send 100 ships, send 1,000. We'll adapt to that too. You'll lose more ships, more resources, more pride, and eventually the Empire will ask itself if conquering a few billion stubborn humans is worth the cost. That's our strategy, Admiral. Not to win, just to make sure you can't win either. To make victory so expensive that it's not worth achieving. The channel went silent. On the bridge of the Imperial Fist, the crew worked desperately to regain control of their systems. Taiyang looked at Nari, who was staring at her screens with a mixture of fear and admiration. They're incredible, she whispered. They turned everything we thought was an advantage against us. Our size, our power, our predictability. They didn't just fight us. They made us fight ourselves. Taiyang nodded slowly. He had tried to warn the Council. The humans were not primitive. They were not weak. They were survivors who had turned survival into an art form, and the Empire had just learned that lesson the hard way. As power slowly returned to the Imperial fleet, the human drones detached and returned to their ships. 2 days had passed since Commander Taiyang's discovery. The Eternal Dominion remained in a holding position at the edge of the human sector, waiting for permission to proceed. During that time, Nari and her team had been analyzing every scrap of data they could gather from long-range scans. The more they learned, the more questions they had. Finally, the communication channel activated. Commander Taiyang, this is Diplomat Jiwan of the Taisan Commonwealth. We are ready to meet with you. Coordinates are being transmitted for a neutral location. Please bring no more than 5 crew members. Taeyang selected his team carefully. Nari would come as his science officer. He added 3 security personnel just in case. The humans had been polite so far, but the Empire didn't survive 10,000 years by being careless. They took a shuttle to the coordinates, a small space station floating between 2 human worlds. As they approached, Taeyang got his first close look at human architecture. The station was elegant, curved, and flowing rather than the angular designs the Empire preferred. It looked almost organic, like it had grown rather than been built. The shuttle docked smoothly. As Taeyang and his team stepped out, they were greeted by a sight that made them all pause. Standing in the docking bay were 5 humans waiting calmly. Taeyang had seen pictures of humans in historical databases, but seeing them in person was different. They were shorter than the Valthern, with smooth skin and hair on their heads. They wore simple uniforms in shades of blue and gray. One of them stepped forward, a woman with dark hair pulled back from her face. "Commander Taeyang, welcome to Station Harmony. I am Jiwon, diplomatic representative of the Commonwealth. This is Captain Hyun, commander of our defense forces." She gestured to a man beside her, who had sharp eyes and a military bearing that Taeyang recognized instantly. "Thank you for meeting with us," Taeyang said, giving a formal bow that the Empire used for first contacts. "We have many questions," Jiwon smiled. It was a strange expression, showing teeth, but Taeyang's cultural database indicated it was friendly. "I'm sure you do. Please follow me. We've prepared a meeting room." As they walked through the station, Taeyang observed everything. The corridors were clean and well-maintained. Humans moved past them, some glancing with curiosity, but none showing fear or hostility. They passed windows that showed the nearby human worlds, beautiful and peaceful. The meeting room was simple but comfortable. They sat around a circular table, a design choice that Nari noted immediately. "No head of the table," she whispered to Taeyang. "They're already indicating this is a meeting of equals." Once everyone was seated, Jiwon began. "Commander, let me address what I'm sure is your first question. Yes, we are human. Yes, our species was thought to be extinct. And yes, we've been here hidden for 8,000 years. How?" Taeyang asked bluntly. "Our records show Earth was destroyed. How did you survive?" Captain Hyun spoke for the first time. His voice was deep and steady. "Not all of us were on Earth when the disaster came. Our ancestors saw the warning signs years before the end. They built generation ships and launched them in secret. When Earth died, several thousand humans were already in deep space fleeing to safety. They found this sector by accident." Jiwon continued. "The gravitational anomaly that hides us from outside sensors was natural, but we enhanced it. We turned it into a perfect hiding place. Our ancestors settled here and built a new civilization from scratch. But why hide?" Nari asked. "Why not contact the Empire? We would have welcomed you, given you aid and protection." Jiwon and Hyun exchanged a look. "Because we've been watching you," Hyun said flatly. "For centuries, we've had observation posts outside this sector. We've monitored the Empire's expansion. We've seen how you treat other species. You offer protection, yes, but you also demand submission. Species that join the Empire give up their independence. They follow your laws, adopt your culture, and accept your authority." Taeyang felt a flash of anger. "The Empire brings order and stability. We've ended countless wars. We've raised primitive species to civilization." "At the cost of their freedom," Jiwon said gently. "We don't judge you for it, Commander. The Empire has done great things. But humans learned something long ago back on Earth before it died. We learned that we would rather die free than live as subjects. So when we found this place, we decided to stay hidden. We built our own civilization, our own way." "And what way is that?" Nari asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her imperial pride. Jiwon stood and walked to a wall display. She activated it, showing images of human worlds. "We built the Commonwealth on principles of equality and cooperation. All 12 of our worlds have equal representation. We make decisions together. No single authority rules us all. Every human has a voice in how we're governed." "That sounds chaotic," Taeyang said. "Sometimes it is," Hyun admitted with a slight smile. "But it works for us. And it's made us strong in ways the Empire might not understand. When you're not spending resources maintaining control over unwilling subjects, you can spend them on innovation, exploration, and improvement." Nari was studying the data on the displays. Your medical technology is remarkably advanced, and your energy efficiency is better than ours in several areas. How did you achieve this with such limited resources? Necessity, Ji-won said simply. We couldn't afford waste. We didn't have the luxury of the Empire's vast resources. Every advance we made had to be practical and efficient. We learned to do more with less. We learned to adapt. Adaptation, Hyun said, is humanity's greatest strength. We survived when our world died. We thrived in isolation. We turned disadvantages into advantages. That's what humans do. We refused to quit. Taeyang was beginning to understand something that disturbed him. The Empire had always assumed it was superior because it was large and powerful. But these humans had matched Imperial technology with a fraction of the resources. What did that say about efficiency? About innovation? So what happens now? Taeyang asked. I've already sent my report to the Imperial Council. They'll want to establish formal relations. The Empire will expect you to join us. The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. Hyun's expression hardened. That's not going to happen, Commander. We won't give up our independence. We've worked too hard for it. The Council won't accept that, Taeyang warned. They'll see you as a threat or a prize to be claimed. Either way, they'll send more ships. Bigger ships? We know, Ji-won said calmly. We've been preparing for this possibility for a long time. We hoped it would never come, but we're not naive. We know what the Empire is capable of. Are you saying you would fight us? Taeyang asked, shocked. You can't win. The Empire has thousands of ships. Millions of soldiers. We don't need to win, Hyun said. We just need to make it too costly for you to conquer us. We've had 8,000 years to prepare these defenses. Every world, every station, every ship is designed with one purpose, survival. You might eventually defeat us, Commander, but we'll make you bleed for every meter of space, and we'll make sure the entire galaxy knows that the mighty Valthern Empire needed its full military might to crush a few billion humans who just wanted to be left alone. The silence that followed was heavy. Taeyang realized that the humans weren't bluffing. They meant every word. They would fight and they would make it hurt. There has to be another way, Nari said quietly. Surely we can find a compromise. Some form of alliance that respects your independence while addressing the Empire's security concerns. Ji-won looked at her with approval. That's what we hope for, Science Officer Nari. We don't want war. We just want to be recognized as equals, as a sovereign nation with the right to self-determination. If the Empire can accept that, then we can talk about cooperation, trade, even military alliance if it benefits both of us. But we will not bow. We will not submit. Taeyang stood slowly. His mind was racing. He had come here expecting to find a primitive human remnant that would be grateful for Imperial contact. Instead, he had found a civilization that was confident, capable, and absolutely determined to remain free. The Empire would not respond well to this, but maybe, just maybe, there was a way forward that didn't end in bloodshed. I will send your position to the Council, he said formally, and I will recommend they consider your offer of equal partnership. But I cannot promise they will listen. We understand, Ji-won said. Thank you for being honest with us, Commander. And thank you for listening. Not all Imperial officers would have done that. As Taeyang and his team returned to their shuttle, Nari spoke softly. They're not going to back down, sir. The humans, I mean. They really will fight. I know, Taeyang said, looking back at the station. And that's what worries me. Because I think they might actually have a chance. Commander Taeyang stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, watching the stars shift as his ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The viewport showed nothing but empty space and distant stars. His crew had been traveling for weeks, mapping the outer regions of the galaxy that the Valthern Empire had never bothered to explore. The Empire controlled thousands of worlds. They were the dominant force in the galaxy, and everyone knew it. Most species either joined willingly or were conquered. It had been this way for over 10,000 years. Taeyang had served the Empire his entire life, rising through the ranks to command one of their best survey vessels. Commander, we're detecting something unusual, said Nari, his chief science officer. She was bent over her console, her 3 eyes narrowed in concentration. The Valthern were tall, gray-skinned beings with an extra eye in the center of their foreheads. They prided themselves on logic and order. What is it? Taeyang asked, moving closer to her station. There's a gravitational anomaly ahead. It's massive, like a bubble in space. Our sensors can barely penetrate it. Nari's fingers danced across the controls. Wait, I'm picking up something inside. Energy signatures. Lots of them. Taiyang felt a surge of interest. This region was supposed to be empty, just dead space between spiral arms of the galaxy. Can you identify the source? Not yet. We need to get closer. Nari looked up at him. Sir, according to our maps, nothing should be here. This entire sector has been classified as uninhabitable for as long as records exist. Then let's see what's hiding in there, Taeyang said. Take us in slowly. Full sensor sweep. The ship moved forward, pushing through the edge of the gravitational anomaly. The viewport flickered for a moment, and then everything changed. Where there had been empty space, now there were stars. Lots of them. And planets. And something else. Commander. Nari's voice was sharp with shock. I'm reading artificial structures. Orbital stations. Energy grids. This is an active civilization. Taeyang stared at the main screen as it filled with data. There were 12 planets in this hidden sector, and at least 8 of them showed signs of advanced life. Cities dotted their surfaces like glowing jewels. Ships moved between worlds in organized patterns. This wasn't a primitive society. This was a thriving, spacefaring civilization. How is this possible? Taeyang muttered. We've surveyed this area before. There was nothing here. The anomaly, Nari said, her voice filled with wonder. It's not natural. It's a cloaking field of some kind. From the outside, this entire sector appears empty, but from the inside, it's been hiding a complete star system. Maybe several systems. Who could build something like this? Taeyang asked. I don't know, but I'm about to find out. Nari worked her controls faster. I'm running biological scans on the inhabited planets. Commander, this can't be right. What is it? The inhabitants. They're human. Taeyang felt like the floor had dropped away beneath him. That's impossible. Humans are extinct. Their homeworld was destroyed 8,000 years ago. We have records of it. A cosmic catastrophe, a dying star or something. The entire species was wiped out. I'm running the scans again, Nari said. But after a moment, she shook her head. It's confirmed. The biological signatures match human DNA from our databases. Commander, there are humans down there. Billions of them. The bridge fell silent. Every crew member was staring at the screens in disbelief. Humans were legendary in the Empire. They had been one of the older species, builders and explorers who had spread across several systems before their sun died. When their homeworld burned, everyone assumed the entire species had died with it. The Empire had even erected monuments to the lost humans, celebrating them as a cautionary tale about the fragility of life. But here they were, alive and thriving in a hidden corner of the galaxy. Begin recording everything, Taeyang ordered. The Imperial Council will want to see this. Nari, can you tell how advanced they are? Nari studied her screens. Their technology is sophisticated. I'm detecting fusion reactors, quantum communication networks, and faster-than-light engines. Commander, their technology might be as advanced as ours, maybe more in some areas. That's not possible, Taeyang said. They've been isolated here for 8,000 years. How could they match the Empire's technology? I don't know, Nari admitted. But the evidence is clear. A warning alarm suddenly filled the bridge. Commander, we're being scanned, reported the tactical officer. Multiple sources. They know we're here. Defensive posture, Taeyang ordered. But don't power weapons. We're not here to fight. Open all communication channels. Let's see if they want to talk. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a voice came through the speakers, speaking perfect Imperial standard. Unidentified vessel. This is the Taysan Commonwealth Defense Authority. You have entered our sovereign space. Identify yourself and state your intentions. Taeyang exchanged glances with Nari. The voice was calm, professional, and showed no fear. This is Commander Taeyang of the Valthern Empire ship Eternal Dominion. We mean no harm. We were conducting a survey mission and discovered your civilization. We had no idea anyone was living in this sector. There was a pause. Then the voice returned. Stand by for security verification. A diplomatic team will contact you shortly. Do not approach any of our worlds until authorization is granted. Any hostile action will be met with appropriate response. The channel went quiet. Taeyang looked around his bridge. They're not acting like primitives who just met a superior civilization. They're acting like equals. Because they might be equals, Nari said softly. Look at these readings, Commander. Their ships are moving to intercept us. See how they're positioning themselves? That's advanced tactical formation. They're not afraid of us. They're evaluating us as a potential threat. Taeyang felt a strange mixture of emotions. Pride in discovering something incredible, confusion about how humans had survived, and something else, something he didn't want to admit. It might have been concern. The Empire had always been the strongest force in the galaxy. They set the rules. They decided who was worthy and who was not. But these humans hadn't asked permission to exist. They had survived against impossible odds, built a civilization in secret, and now they were greeting an Imperial ship with confidence rather than fear. "Send a message to Imperial Command," Taeyang said. "Tell them we've made first contact with a human civilization. Include all our scans and recordings. And tell them," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "tell them this changes everything." As his crew worked to compile the report, Taeyang stared at the image of the nearest human world on his screen. It was beautiful, blue and green and alive. Ships orbited it in peaceful patterns. Cities sparkled on the night side. Somewhere down there, humans who should have died 8,000 years ago were living their lives, completely unaware that they had just become the galaxy's biggest mystery. And Taeyang had the feeling that this discovery would shake the Empire to its core.